Quentin Jacobs sat in his office, staring at the latest customer complaint emails with a sinking feeling in his stomach. He had inherited the family-owned restaurant chain from his father, who had built it from the ground up. 13 locations, each meant to serve great food with even better service. But lately, something wasn't right. Negative reviews had been piling up. Complaints about rude staff, long wait times, and cold meals. It didn't make sense. He had always prided himself on hiring good people and creating a positive work environment. But reports from his managers told a different story. They insisted everything was fine. Fine wasn't good enough. Quentin had never worked in one of the restaurants himself. His father had always handled the daily operations while he managed expansion and finances. But he wasn't about to let his family's legacy crumble under poor leadership. So he made a decision. He was going undercover. With the help of a professional disguise expert, Quentin transformed. His usual sharp suit was replaced with a faded hoodie and jeans. A graying wig, aged makeup, and thick glasses made him look like an exhausted middle-aged man. He even changed his posture, slouching slightly to sell the look. No one would recognize him. Most of the employees had never met him in person. He was just Wes, another customer walking through the doors of one of his restaurants. He chose a location that had been getting the worst complaints. As he stepped inside, the atmosphere was off. The air felt tense. The hostess barely looked at him before muttering, "Sit wherever. Someone will get to you." Quentin took a seat and watched. The restaurant wasn't crowded, yet service was sluggish. A group of customers nearby looked frustrated, one checking their watch repeatedly. A waitress rushed between tables, clearly the only one actually working. "Excuse me," he called out to a passing server. The man, an employee in his mid-30s, barely slowed. Yeah, I'll get to you." Then he disappeared into the back. Quentin exhaled sharply. So this was what customers had been dealing with. A few minutes later, the overworked waitress approached his table, flipping open her notepad. Her name tag read Willow Lawrence. "Sorry for the wait," she said, slightly out of breath. "What can I get you?" She was polite, but he could see the exhaustion in her eyes. "Just a burger and fries," he said. She nodded. "I'll get that right in for you." As she walked away, Quentin kept watching. Other employees stood around, chatting near the drink station. A tall man in a manager's uniform leaned against the counter, scrolling on his phone. Meanwhile, Willow was doing everything: taking orders, refilling drinks, running food. His order took nearly 20 minutes to arrive, despite the kitchen not being busy. When it did, it wasn't even Willow who brought it out. It was the same server who had brushed him off earlier. He dropped the plate onto the table carelessly, not even making eye contact. "Enjoy," he said flatly, already walking away. Quentin took a bite. Cold. He was about to call someone over when he heard a commotion near the front. A customer was arguing with the hostess. "I've been waiting for 30 minutes, and I haven't even been given water," the woman snapped. The hostess, who looked barely interested, shrugged. "We're short-staffed." Quentin turned to see Willow rushing over. "Ma'am, I am so sorry," she said quickly. "Let me take care of you." The customer huffed, but let Willow lead her to a table. Quentin had seen enough. This wasn't just bad service, this was neglect from the top down. The employees didn't care because management didn't. And the one person actually working was being run into the ground. He put down his fork. It was time to dig deeper. Quentin remained in his seat, observing the disarray as he slowly chewed the cold burger. He had expected to find inefficiencies, maybe even some poor management, but this was beyond what he had imagined. Employees standing around, a manager glued to his phone, and only one person actually working. It was a disaster. Willow moved swiftly between tables, refilling drinks and taking orders with an apologetic expression. She wasn't just working hard, she was holding the entire shift together. The contrast between her and the idle staff was glaring. Quentin decided to test something. He raised his hand, signaling for service. The employees near the drink station saw him but made no effort to approach. After a few minutes, he stood and walked toward the counter. The manager, a stocky man with a short beard, was still scrolling through his phone. Quentin cleared his throat. The manager looked up lazily, his expression indifferent. Without looking at his name tag, Quentin asked, "Are you the manager here?" The man nodded. "Yeah. What do you need?" "I've been waiting for some basic service. My food came out cold, and no one's checked on my table since I sat down." The manager sighed, putting his phone on the counter. "We're short-staffed, man. It's busy." Quentin glanced around. The restaurant was nowhere near full. The real issue wasn't staffing, it was effort. As he was about to respond, Willow rushed up beside him. "I'm so sorry about that," she said quickly. "Let me fix your order." Before Quentin could answer, the manager turned to her, irritation flashing in his eyes. "Willow, what are you doing?" She hesitated but kept her voice steady. "I'm making sure a customer is taken care of." The manager scoffed. "You don't need to overdo it. He got his food, didn't he?" "It was cold," Willow said. "That's not acceptable. I'll have the kitchen remake it." Quentin watched the exchange carefully. Willow wasn't being rude, she was just doing her job. But the manager didn't like being contradicted, even when he was clearly in the wrong. The manager exhaled sharply, crossing his arms. "You act like this place is your responsibility. It's not. Just do what you're told and stop making a big deal out of everything." Willow's jaw tightened, but she didn't back down. "Taking care of customers is part of my job." Quentin saw the moment the manager decided he'd had enough. His posture stiffened, and his expression darkened. "You know what? If you don't like how things are run, you don't have to work here." Willow blinked, clearly caught off guard. "What? You're done," the manager said flatly. "Go clock out." The restaurant went silent. Quentin felt a surge of anger rise in his chest. Willow had been the only one actually working, and now she was being fired for it? Willow hesitated, then nodded stiffly. "Fine." She turned and walked toward the back, her hands clenched into fists. Quentin had seen enough. He wasn't going to let this slide. He straightened his posture and pulled off his glasses. Then, with a deliberate motion, he removed his wig. The manager's face twisted in confusion as Quentin met his gaze head-on. "Quentin Jacobs," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Owner of this restaurant." The color drained from the manager's face. The employees who had been standing around went rigid, realizing what was happening. Quentin let the silence hang for a moment before speaking again. "I've spent the last hour watching employees ignore customers, orders come out cold, and the only person actually doing their job just got fired for it." The manager swallowed hard. "I didn't know." "That's the problem," Quentin interrupted. "You don't know how to manage a restaurant. And you certainly don't know how to treat people." Willow had just re-entered the dining area, now out of uniform. She stopped in her tracks when she saw Quentin standing there, realization dawning on her face. Quentin turned to her. "Willow, you're not fired." She blinked in surprise. "I'm not." "No," he said firmly. "But he is." He pointed at the manager, whose mouth fell open. "You can't be serious," the manager stammered. "I'm completely serious," Quentin said. "Get your things and leave." The restaurant remained dead silent as the manager hesitated, then stormed toward the back. Quentin turned back to Willow. "I need to talk to you." She nodded, still stunned. They sat at an empty booth. Quentin could see she was still processing everything. "I had no idea things had gotten this bad," he admitted. "If I hadn't come in today, I don't know how long this would have gone on." Willow exhaled, shaking her head. "It's been like this for months." The manager barely pays attention, and most of the staff follow his lead. "I tried to keep things running, but it's exhausting." Quentin nodded. "I saw that. And I saw how much you care." She looked down, her expression unreadable. "I just wanted to do my job right." "And you did," Quentin said. "Which is why I want to offer you a promotion." Her head snapped up. "What?" "You've been running this place without the title or the pay," he said. "I want you to be the new manager." Willow stared at him, disbelief in her eyes. "Are you serious?" "Absolutely," Quentin said. "You've proven you can lead. And I need someone who actually cares about this restaurant." Tears welled in her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Quentin said. She let out a shaky laugh and nodded. "Yes." Quentin smiled. "Good. Now, let's fix this place." With Willow as manager, things were about to change. With the former manager gone and Willow now in charge, Quentin wasted no time in addressing the deeper issues plaguing the restaurant. He had seen firsthand how poor leadership had trickled down, creating an environment where laziness was tolerated and hard work was punished. That was over. He gathered the staff near the front of the restaurant, standing beside Willow. Some employees looked anxious, others indifferent. They had just witnessed their manager get fired in real time, and now they were waiting to see what would happen next. Quentin scanned their faces before speaking. "Things are going to change," he said. "Effective immediately." Some of the employees shifted uncomfortably, while others straightened up, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "I spent today watching customers get ignored, orders come out wrong, and the only person actually doing their job nearly got fired for it." That's not how this restaurant is going to run anymore. He turned to Willow. Willow is now the manager. That means she's in charge, and I expect everyone here to respect that. A few employees exchanged glances. One of the servers, a younger man with his arms crossed, scoffed quietly. Quentin caught it. You have something to say? He asked, his voice even. The server hesitated, then shrugged. Just seems kind of sudden. We barely know her like that. Quentin met his gaze. You don't need to know her. You just need to do your job. Something I noticed a lot of people here aren't doing. The room fell silent again. If anyone has an issue with being held accountable, you're free to leave, Quentin continued. No one is being forced to stay here. But if you do stay, understand that things will be different. One of the kitchen staff, a woman in her 40s, cleared her throat. What kind of changes? Quentin nodded, appreciating the question. For starters, we're reevaluating staff roles. If you're not pulling your weight, you won't be here much longer. We'll also be hiring more people to make sure shifts are properly covered. No more one person doing the job of 5. Willow spoke up, her voice steady. That also means better training. A lot of the mistakes happening here aren't just laziness there because no one was trained properly. That stops now. Some employees looked surprised, as if they hadn't expected that level of attention to detail. Quentin continued. Customer complaints are going to be addressed directly. I'll be reviewing feedback personally, and I'll know if things aren't improving. A dishwasher hesitantly raised his hand. What about pay? Quentin had already thought about this. If you do your job well, you'll be compensated fairly. But raises have to be earned. No one is getting paid more just to stand around. The tension in the room shifted. Some employees, the ones who had been coasting under the old management, seemed uneasy. But others, the ones who had been working hard despite the chaos, looked hopeful. Quentin watched their reactions carefully. He knew not everyone would stay. Some people thrived in low-effort environments and would rather quit than step up. That was fine. He wasn't looking to keep warm bodies, he was looking to build a real team. He turned to Willow. You'll have full authority to make staff decisions. If someone isn't doing their job, you handle it. She nodded, understanding the weight of the responsibility. Quentin exhaled, then looked around the group one more time. That's all for now. If you want to be a part of this, great. If not, I suggest you start looking elsewhere. The staff dispersed slowly, murmuring among themselves. Some walked with purpose, while others lingered, unsure of what to do next. Quentin knew this was just the beginning, but it was a necessary first step. As the employees returned to their duties or in some cases, quietly left, Quentin turned to Willow. You up for this? He asked. She let out a breath, then nodded. Yeah, I am. Good, he said. Because this place is about to change for the better. Quentin stayed at the restaurant for the rest of the evening, watching the staff adjust to the sudden shift in power. Some were making an effort, clearly realizing that their old habits wouldn't be tolerated any longer. Others seemed uncertain, hesitating before carrying out tasks they had previously ignored. Willow had stepped into her new role immediately, delegating responsibilities with quiet authority. She wasn't overbearing, but she was firm, ensuring that tables were attended to and that the kitchen was running efficiently. Even in the midst of the transition, the difference was noticeable. Orders were being taken faster, food was coming out hot, and customers weren't left waiting endlessly. By closing time, Quentin could already see who was willing to adapt and who wasn't. A few employees had pulled him aside, asking if they'd be getting additional training. Others had mumbled their way through the shift, barely concealing their frustration over the increased expectations. As the last customers left and the doors were locked, he motioned for Willow to join him at a corner table. She sat down across from him, rubbing her temples before letting out a long breath. How are you feeling? He asked. Tired, she admitted. But in a good way. I think some of them are trying. Others, not so much. He nodded. That's expected. Some people won't want to change, and they'll either quit or give you a reason to let them go. She leaned back in her chair, glancing toward the kitchen. The cooks were better by the end of the night. I think they just needed to know someone was actually paying attention. That's the key, Quentin said. People get away with bad habits when no one holds them accountable. But the ones who want to do a good job will step up if they know leadership cares. She was silent for a moment, then looked at him with curiosity. Be honest with me. Did you expect to find it this bad? He exhaled. Not this bad, no. I knew there were problems, but I didn't realize how deep they ran. If I hadn't come in, I don't know how much longer this place would have lasted. She hesitated before speaking again. And the other locations? That's next on my list, he said. If it's happening here, it could be happening elsewhere. I'm not making the mistake of assuming everything is fine anymore. She nodded, seeming to appreciate the honesty. I guess I just don't understand how it got this bad in the first place. It happened slowly, Quentin admitted. When a business expands, it's easy to rely on reports instead of first-hand experience. But numbers and meetings don't show you what's actually happening on the ground. She tapped her fingers against the table. So what's the plan moving forward? First, we stabilize this location, he said. I'll be checking in regularly, but this is your restaurant to run now. You'll have the authority to make staffing decisions, enforce training, and make sure customers are actually taken care of. She absorbed that for a moment before asking, and if I need help? You'll have it, he assured her. I'm not going to throw you into this without support, but I trust you to make the right decisions. She gave a small nod, the weight of responsibility settling in. All right, then I'm in. Good, Quentin said, because this isn't just about fixing one restaurant. It's about making sure this never happens again. They sat in silence for a few moments, both aware that the real work was just beginning. But for the first time in a long time, Quentin felt confident that his father's legacy was in good hands. The next morning, Quentin sat in his office, reviewing the overnight reports from the restaurant. Willow had sent him a breakdown of the previous night's sales, customer feedback, and staffing concerns. He could already see the shift happening. Sales had slightly improved just from the boost in service alone, and customer complaints had dropped. But the real test would be maintaining that momentum. He leaned back in his chair, thinking through his next steps. Fixing one restaurant was only the beginning. He had 12 more locations to evaluate, and he wasn't about to assume this was an isolated issue. If the same neglect was happening elsewhere, he needed to address it before it spread any further. His phone buzzed. It was a message from one of his regional managers, Evan Price. Heard about the shakeup at the Eastbrook location. Let me know if we need to discuss staffing adjustments. Quentin exhaled. He had expected word to spread quickly. Evan had always been reliable, but he would need more than just reports from upper management. The only way to truly understand what was happening was to see it for himself. He picked up the phone and dialed Willow. Morning, she answered, her voice slightly groggy. Morning, he said. Everything go smoothly after I left? For the most part. A couple of the servers didn't come back for their shifts today. He wasn't surprised. Did they call in? Nope. Just didn't show. Quentin nodded to himself. All right. We'll replace them. We need people who actually want to be there. That's what I figured, she said. I've already got job postings up. He could hear the determination in her voice, and it reassured him that he'd made the right choice. I'm heading to another location today, he said. I'll be checking in on all of them over the next few weeks. There was a pause on her end. You think this is a bigger problem? I'm not taking any chances. She sighed. Well, if you need someone to tell you what it's like on the ground, I'm happy to help. I'll take you up on that, he said. After hanging up, he pulled up a list of the other locations. He needed to get a real sense of what was happening across the company. Eastbrook had been bad, but was it the worst, or just the first one he'd seen? Later that afternoon, Quentin walked into another restaurant, this one in a different part of town. He wasn't in disguise this time. He wanted to see how the staff reacted to having him there openly. The moment he stepped inside, he noticed the difference. The atmosphere was livelier, employees moved with purpose, and customers seemed content. A hostess greeted him with a smile and led him to a table without hesitation. As he sat, a server approached almost immediately. Good afternoon. I'm Daniel, and I'll be taking care of you today. Quentin gave a polite nod. Appreciate it. The service was quick. His food arrived hot, and Daniel checked in twice before he was even halfway through his meal. It was the complete opposite of what he had experienced at Eastbrook. When he finished, he asked to speak with the manager. Within minutes, a woman in her 50s approached with a confident, professional demeanor. I'm Lisa, she said, extending her hand. I understand you wanted to speak with me? Quentin shook her hand. I did. I own this restaurant. Lisa's expression remained steady, though he could see the flicker of recognition in her eyes. It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Jacobs. I wanted to see how things were running here, he said. And from what I've experienced, it's impressive. A small smile crossed her face. We work hard to keep things running smoothly. I can tell, he said. What's your secret? She chuckled. It's not really a secret. I hire people who care, and I make sure they have what they need to do their jobs. If they're struggling, I step in. If they're excelling, I acknowledge it. Simple as that. Quentin nodded. And how's employee turnover? Lower than most places, she said. People stick around when they feel valued. It was exactly what he wanted to hear. I wish I could say all my locations were running this well, he admitted. Lisa tilted her head. I take it you've seen otherwise? He sighed. One of the other locations was a disaster. Poor leadership, employees slacking off, customers being ignored. It was bad. Lisa's expression darkened slightly. That doesn't surprise me. Quentin raised an eyebrow. You've heard things? She hesitated, then nodded. I don't like to speak on other locations, but I've heard complaints. Some managers don't take their jobs as seriously as they should. And when that happens, everything else falls apart. He appreciated the honesty. If I asked for your input on how to fix it, what would you say? She didn't hesitate. Start with leadership. If management is weak, the staff follows suit. You don't just need warm bodies in those roles, you need people who actually care. It was exactly what he had been thinking. Lisa, he said, would you be open to taking on a larger role? She blinked. What kind of role? Overseeing multiple locations, he said. Helping to identify issues and work with managers to improve them. She studied him carefully. You're serious about fixing this, aren't you? Dead serious. She nodded slowly. Then yes. I'd be willing to step up. Quentin extended his hand again, and she shook it firmly. Good, he said. Because this company is about to change. And for the first time in a long while, he felt confident that it would.